Something weird has been happening in this zone. The Husk encampments are going berserk and spawning huge waves of enemies. Whatever's happening, we need to stop it from spreading. When you find an active encampment, be ready to fight until the end. According to my data, we have 20 minutes to neutralize the targets. Search the zone and keep an eye out for any encampments that look angrier than usual. I'll keep an eye out from here. This encampment is not active. There it is. The next encampment might be stronger. Make sure your weapons and ammo are ready to go. One, take it down. The encampments are getting stronger. Make sure you're prepared. Found one. Check out your map. This position. Looking tough. You can do it. That's one. Take it down. Keep that streak going. For more, Commander. There it is. Get that encampment! pushing on, we might clear the zone. One. Check out your map. Another big fight. Here we go. 5 minutes left.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
up with gadgets to outsmart the storm. Well, that started an arms race. You know those rumors we've been hearing about an even more dangerous part of the storm? A corrosive storm that closes in on you, eventually swallowing you alive? Remember how I said that would never, ever, ever happen here? It's happening here. Landing site spotted. Nice find. We need to retrieve the data as usual, but this time we need to watch the storm. Exposure to the storm will hurt you. A lot. You'll take damage when you're in the storm, so keep an eye on your feet. We need to retrieve the data before we're overwhelmed by the storm, so you'll want to move quickly. We only have 20 minutes. Keep an eye on the storm's movement on your map. Any attacks from the storm's creatures can corrupt the data. You'll want to build defenses around the balloon's landing site. We've got a bonus in play. only way we're going to retrieve all of the data is to shoot the balloon down as soon as possible. So bring down that balloon, download that data, and get ready to move. The balloon has landed. Defend that data. Successfully retrieved will help us locate survivors and weak points in the storm.
One of the most awe-inspiring and well-documented UFO sightings came in 1997. It was March 13th in Arizona, a clear, starry night. People were just going about their usual business when, out of nowhere, strange lights started to appear in the sky. And no, they were not stars. First, there was this V-shaped formation of 5 lights slowly gliding across the state. The lights were first spotted in the town of Henderson, Nevada, around 7:55 p.m. And from there, they made their way to Arizona, passing over Prescott and heading towards Phoenix. As the lights moved, more and more people saw them. Hundreds, maybe even thousands looked up and saw this weird, silent, glowing formation. Some folks described it as a massive, solid object blocking out the stars as it passed. The police were flooded with reports. Phone lines were lighting up in news and radio stations, and the odd V-shaped craft wasn't the only one reported. A police officer in Paulden, Arizona would report seeing a cluster of orange-colored lights. And later, around 10 p.m., there were a number of reports in the Phoenix area of a row of brilliant lights hovering in the sky, or slowly falling. It later came out that the Air National Guard had been carrying out test flights that night, but people were skeptical, and till this day, people still don't buy the official explanation. As for why that is, well, we could do a whole video on this case, but essentially, the military said one of the light formations was a plane and the other sets of lights were flares, and it just didn't look like that. The story of the Orang Medan is one of the creepiest and most mysterious sea tales out there. It all started in 1947 when a distress call came in from a Dutch freighter named the SS Orang Medan. The message: all officers, including the captain, are dead. Flying in Chartreuse Bridge, possibly whole crew dead. Then there was some garbled Morse code, followed by the final words, "I die," which has always creeped me out. Rescue ships were quickly sent to check things out. When they boarded the ship, though, they found that the entire crew was indeed dead. Their bodies were scattered around the ship. Their faces were frozen in expressions of pure terror, and their arms were reaching out like they'd been trying to fight something off. There were no signs of physical injuries, though. The rescuers didn't have much time to figure things out either. Shortly after they arrived, a fire broke out in the ship's cargo hold. They had to abandon the vessel, which then exploded, sinking into the depths of the ocean. And another one of the most mysterious maritime tales in history is, of course, the case of the Mary Celeste. On December 4th of 1872, a ship called the Mary Celeste was found floating in the Atlantic Ocean. It was found completely empty. Of people, anyway. All the cargo, food supplies, and the crew's belongings, they were all still in place. All that was missing was a single lifeboat. The Mary Celeste had left New York about a month earlier, led by Captain Benjamin Briggs. He was traveling with his wife, his young daughter, and 7 crew. The ship was headed for Italy. Now, everything seemed normal during the journey, and that's because we have the log entries. The last entry in the logbook, too, was just a regular note about the ship's position and weather. There were no clues in these logs about any sign of trouble. There was no sign of a struggle or any kind of damage to the ship. It looked like everyone had just calmly left in the lifeboat. But why? The weather was fine. The ship was in good shape. It was unlikely that pirates had attacked either, because again, nothing had been stolen and there were no signs of violence. To this day, nobody knows what happened to Captain Briggs, his family, or the crew.
Starting us off, number 10 are dreams. I'm pretty sure everyone in life has wondered what their dreams meant. Anytime I dream of anything traumatic, I always Google it and I'm like, oh my god, I'm about to start a new chapter of my life, or one's about to end, what do I do? Either way, dream travel is a theory that our dreams show glimpses of alternate universes or realities that are beyond ours. In a multiverse where there are endless versions of you and your life, and they've all branched off and have lived different lives, if you're having a really vivid dream to the point it's so lifelike you feel like you're really there, it's possible we're tapping into the experiences and memories of an alternate us. Say if you keep dreaming about living in a different country or having a different job or eating something so detailed you can smell it and taste it, it's been theorized it's because you've probably already experienced those things in another timeline and our sleeping mind somehow lets us access it. Physicists have theorized since our conscious minds' barriers are down during sleep, it allows our subconscious mind to go into the windows between realities and contact the consciousness of our other selves. This suggests that maybe our subconscious mind operates in our own reality and the others all at the same time. Another theory is that despite only seeing one course of events for each action or decision we make, we still imagine what would have happened if we did or chose differently. So, based on that, our dreams could be showing us how all those other decisions would have played out if our other selves made them. That was a lot to digest, I know, and there's a lot more to come. Coming in at number 9 is missing time. So I feel like a lot of people will be able to identify with this feeling or experience and yet not know it could very well be evidence of an alternate reality. So this is a story of John Carlson. In the late 70s, John was in high school and his house was about a 1.5-mile walk from his school. He walked there and back every day, and it was a pretty straightforward route that he knew very well. One day he was walking home when he saw a bunch of guys that usually bullied him, and he took a different route. Again, even this other route he knew very, very well. He'd also taken it before, so it wasn't anything new. But on the walk, things just seemed off. Despite school just ending, it was eerily quiet, and he felt like things just weren't real. As he was approaching an intersection, he saw the stores he usually saw there, but the silence persisted. He realized that even though he was walking towards the intersection, the stores and landmarks kept getting further and further away from him. Like a mirage, he didn't understand and started feeling anxious and disoriented, and then blank. A complete loss of memory, and when he awakened, he was on a different street in a different part of town, quite a while away from the intersection he was at before. And he had no idea how he got there, but within a few minutes, his mum pulled up and asked him if he was alright. Normally, his parents never looked for him as long as he came home before dinner, but his mum somehow just knew exactly where he was. When he asked her why she went to look for him, she said she was just doing chores at home when a voice in her head said, "Get John, he needs you." And a lot of people have had the same missing piece of time experience, so they've theorized that perhaps these blips are us crossing into another universe and taking your alternate selves' place and vice versa. So when you swap back, you end up somewhere else and not knowing how you got there. Number 8, we have the Large Hadron Collider, LHC for short. CERN, which is the European Organization for Nuclear Research, restarted their newly upgraded LHC in order to find out more about dark matter and look for tiny black holes that could be gateways to alternate universes. This LHC is the world's most powerful particle accelerator, and the point of it is to try and recreate the conditions present during the Big Bang to see what kind of matter was produced. Its other project is finding those tiny black holes. A paper published by scientists said the University of Waterloo proposed a way to prove black holes connect our universe with other universes, so CERN intends on testing and proving their hypothesis. If they do, and it's likely that they do, it'll be the first experiment that proves the existence of alternate realities ever. Hopefully they also find out how to transition from this reality to that one. Thanks. Filling our number 7 slot is the Bermuda Triangle. I've been interested in the Bermuda Triangle ever since I found out people and airplanes and ships go missing in the area. There's just too much intrigue to not be interested. It's mysterious, things disappear, time and space becomes distorted. It's like a world of its own. The first article ever written about the place dubbed it the Sea of the Devil, which is just not the way you want to debut into the world of print. It's really not. Over the past century, there have been hundreds and hundreds of large air and sea vessels that have just disappeared. Other cases involve perfectly intact and working sea craft completely abandoned by their crew and the crew never being found. Eyewitnesses who have been and survived recall compasses going crazy when they entered the area, unusual clouds, and entering a rotating substance and exiting through a luminescent curtain of some kind. I don't know. Scientists like Einstein and Michio Kaku came up with theories about the refraction of time. Kaku had a theory about the river of time, saying it can lead to the formation of whirlpools of time in which it's possible to enter into different time spaces and that the river can fork into many directions. And obviously those different time spaces have alternate realities. The founder of the spiritual practice Falun Dafa said the triangle is definitely a gateway to another reality, but it's just very unpredictable. If the door happens to be open, then a ship could slip in for a moment and come back out by accident, but that second could be decades in our world because time is different in every dimension. What do you guys think? Now at number 6 is the Desert Blip. Back in 1972, 4 girls were coming back from a Utah rodeo and they took the Utah Highway 56. Since their landlady had a really strict 12 a.m. curfew and it was already 10:30, the girls decided to take a shortcut off the highway which went towards Gadianton Canyon. They were driving on black asphalt for a while, but somewhere along the way it transformed into cracked concrete. The girls encountered a dead end and went back the way they came, but it took them a few minutes to realize their surroundings had completely changed. They went from driving in the desert to driving by lush fields of wheat near a large lake. At this point, the girls had no idea where they were, and in the distance they saw a light coming from a building. So they went towards it, and when they got closer, they saw the neon sign spell out a message which they couldn't read. The letters or symbols were twisted lines and curves, a language none of the girls had ever seen before. Then, all of a sudden, extremely tall men started pouring out of the building and started waving their arms and pointing at the girls and then coming towards them. They looked human, but they weren't, and the girls took off screaming and crying. 30 seconds later, they realized the people were following them in egg-shaped vehicles that had 1 headlight, 2 front wheels, and 1 rear. They drove back into the canyon and soon lost the eggs, but wow, I really wonder where the hell they ended up. I'm convinced it was another universe. This sign, I can just imagine the sign being one of those fonts on words that you have no idea what it's saying. It's probably one of those. Coming in at number 5 are psychopaths. Juicy, I know. So way back during the eugenics movement, scientists believed mankind could be improved by breeding out the evil and bad ones amongst us. It led to sterilizing prisoners and mental patients by the early 20th century. But Linda Campbell puts forth a theory that psychopaths are spiritually dead, demonized human predators that disguise the fact their mind is demonically filled. Their lack of empathy allows them to ignore reality and impose false realities on others made up of lies. The lack of empathy makes them blind to humanity, and so humans to them can be easily sacrificed, abused, tormented, you name it. It can happen to them. They possess an unlimited amount of demonic energy and get a thrill out of things we would categorize as screwed up. So Linda theorized these people actually exist in a demonically twisted, upside-down reality where everything they're doing and feeling makes complete sense to them in their reality. Our reality and theirs overlap. And their reality is a devilish anti-world within ours. And how this overlap happened, I have no idea. But it's not the first time blips or overlaps have popped up within this topic. So, at number 4 is The Cabin. It was so hard finding links about this story, it's like the universe just didn't want me to share it and know more, but I will. But anyway, many years ago, a woman and her friends went camping near a forest. They were having a good time, toasting marshmallows, the whole shebang, when they heard some music come from a stone cabin. First of all, I don't know why they weren't suspicious suspicious of a random stone cabin in the forest to begin with, but sure. Moving on, when they went to the cabin, they apparently saw a bunch of people wearing 17th century clothing just dancing inside. The woman was almost drawn to it and she tried to enter it, but before she entered all the way, her friend pulled her away and half her body immediately became paralyzed. Yes, the half that entered the cabin. Like out of nowhere, nothing happened, she just became paralyzed. Many believe the woman actually stepped into a dimensional gateway to an alternate reality, but when she was pulled away, she felt a shift that completely threw off her nervous system. I mean, obviously, since our systems don't experience alternate realities frequently, and thus she became paralyzed. Filling a number 3 spot are doppelgangers. It's a tricky subject. How is it possible for someone unrelated to us at all to look exactly like us? Looks are genetic. We look the way we do because of our ancestors. I don't need to explain that. So how can anyone else look exactly like us? From a scientific and biological standpoint, it just doesn't make sense. They're meant to be us in an alternate reality, living their lives, but somehow in the configuration of endless possibilities of realities and universes, a glitch occurred and 2 of the same person ended up in the same reality when technically they shouldn't have been. They're not our clones, they still carry out their own lives like they would have in the alternate reality, except they're here and they look exactly like us. And now at number 2 is Laxaria. Back in 1851, a man called Jofal Boring was found in a German village speaking a bit of broken, weird German. When locals in the area found him, he said he spoke the languages Ebramian and Laxarian, and that he was from Laxaria, from an area called Sacria, which was separated from Europe by an ocean. He said his world had 5 great compartments, aka continents, called Sacria, Asta, Afla, Upla, and Osla, which obviously stunned everyone because none of those things exist. He went on to say he was Christian, but that it was also called Aspasian in Laxaria. You may be wondering why he was in Germany to begin with. He could have just easily stayed in Laxaria. He was trying to find his long-lost brother, but then suffered a shipwreck on his way and wound up in Germany. Despite looking at many maps, he couldn't trace his route from any shore or find his way back. People believe he's from an alternate universe and somehow ended up in ours. Who knows, maybe he went through his world's version of the Bermuda Triangle, and that's how he got here. And finally, at number 1 are the Green Children of Woolpit. Now, in the 12th century, a brother and sister were found near a wolf pit in the village of Woolpit, Suffolk. Yes, they got the name of the village from the wolf pits in the village. Now, they looked like normal human kids, except for the fact that their skin was heavily tinged with green. They spoke an unknown language that none of the locals had heard of, would only eat raw beans, and their clothing was just very bizarre. After a while, they learned how to eat normal food and lost their green hue, but the boy soon died. The girl, however, learned how to speak English, and she explained how her brother and her had come from a place called St. Martin's Land, which was a subterranean world that only housed green people. She said the sun never shone there, and it was twilight all the time. When asked how they got to Woolpit, she said she had no idea. She recalls herding her dad's cattle with her brother, and then hearing a loud noise, and then they suddenly just end up near the wolf pit. The girl grew up and got married and lived her life, but many people theorize the kids came from an alternate reality, but just adapted to ours. For me personally, since it was the 12th century and travel was hard for locals of small villages, maybe the kids were from the Middle East or Asia, which could explain why the locals didn't recognize their language or clothing, but that still doesn't explain how they got there or the greenness of their skin, so maybe I could just stop talking. Starting us off at number 10 is the cold spot. According to a study published by the Royal Astronomical Society, there's a patch of cold space called the cold spot, which can be seen in the radiation produced by the Big Bang more than 13 billion years ago. It was first discovered by one of NASA's satellites in 2004 and then confirmed by ESA's Planck mission in 2013. The latest study actually ruled out the pre-existing explanation for this, which was that the cold spot was an optical illusion produced by a lack of intervening galaxies. One of the authors of the study said the cold spot could very well be caused by a collision between our universe and another bubble universe. Every bubble universe has its own laws of physics that could be similar to ours or completely different. So that ending statement still makes everything inconclusive, but it may be evidence. Coming in at number 9 is Deja Vu and Co. So pretty sure we've all experienced Deja Vu multiple times in our lives.
Dopey 507 ladies,
But the
14
title was
viewers.
referring
Thank you
to
so
other
frickin' much.
phenomenons. The first being Deja Vu, which means you instinctively know what's about to happen next, and the second being alter vu, which is when someone feels like their whole history has been altered somehow. So to make that clearer, when certain memories just aren't really meshing with reality, that's what alter vu is. And deja vu and deja vu are said to be memories bleeding into our reality from an alternate self. Alter vu, on the other hand, is meant to indicate being transferred to a completely new timeline and universe while still remembering things from your previous one. So next time you feel any of these things, just think twice and think very deeply about what's going on. At number 8, we have the Mandela effect. And now we have talked about the Mandela effect in another video, but if you haven't seen it, then I'll give you a quick recap. So the Mandela effect was formed by paranormal researcher Fiona Broom, who realized she remembered a huge historical event completely differently to everybody around her. She said she clearly remembered Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 80s, when in real life, or at least this reality, he died in 2013 at home. She didn't understand this, but she remembered his death so vividly. She voiced her doubts online and realized there were so many other people who shared the same memory as her, to the point they remember being taught about his death in the 80s in school. There's another example, like in Star Wars, most people remember Darth Vader saying, "Luke, I am your father." Me definitely included. But the actual line is, "No, I am your father." I feel like really hardcore fans will know that, but clearly I'm not. She then formulated the idea that this huge gap between reality could very well be because some people, and in this case the people who remember the 80s death, had somehow managed to splinter off and shift between parallel dimensions, but still kept in contact with, I guess, this dimension. Hence their memories of an old and different timeline doesn't always line up with our world or our timeline, and that was coined the Mandela effect. The end. Filling our number 7 slot is eternal inflation. So this isn't a physical piece of evidence, but it's a significantly backed up scientific theory. So good luck to me trying to explain this. So let's start at the start. The Big Bang was an event that created our universe when it expanded outwards faster than the speed of light, and that process is called inflation. I honestly feel like Bill Nye the Science Guy right now. So according to cosmologist Alexander Willenken, some areas of space-time stop inflating, but others keep expanding. In that regard, the Big Bang stopped expanding all of a sudden for our universe, but according to the theory of inflationary multiverse, it kept expanding into multiple parallel universes, creating more and more infinite realities, and we just happen to be one of them. If they do exist, they're a bubble universe probably right next to us or even overlapping with us. Now at number 6 is the case of Elenia Barcia. Now this Spanish woman woke up in her Madrid apartment one day and was hit with the realization that something was very, very wrong. She didn't recognize the bed sheets she had just woken up on. Some items from her apartment were missing, whereas there were some items she had never even seen before. But the worst part was her boyfriend. She just couldn't find him anymore. She then tried to look for his number in her phone, couldn't find it. She asked her friends about him, none of them knew who she was talking about. She then reported him missing to the police, and they told her there was no records of that person even existing. A psychiatrist offered that perhaps Lenia was hallucinating due to stress, but she vehemently disagreed. She wasn't stressed. Something was wrong. She went to visit her family and spoke about her sister's surgery that had happened a few months prior, and her parents and sister had no recollection of that event. Even when she went to work, everything was anarchy. She now worked for the same company, but in a different department in a different part of the world. She told her boss she was ill and went home, even though she had to figure out who her boss was, yet the boss seemed to know her pretty well, yet she didn't know him at all. She's never been declared mentally ill, and she's not a drinker or a drug user, but she thoroughly believes that she slipped into another universe, only a bit different from her own universe, but now she can just never get back there, because she doesn't even know how she got to this one to begin with. Coming at number 5 are ghosts. Now I know ghosts are almost always exclusively linked to the dead, and that ghosts are known to just to be dead people haunting us or their spirits, but that's actually never been proven. We keep looking towards science for the answers, but the answer may be a lot simpler than we think. People have offered that ghosts are actually living beings from a parallel universe. They could very easily be visions through breaches between planes and into alternate realities that exist in unison with ours. That's why we can never see ghosts that well. They're always just mirages. They could just be real people that are flickering into our world from theirs, and we could very well be doing the same in their world. For all I know, I could be a appearing as a vision over there right now, but some little kid probably is shitting himself thinking I'm a ghost. Another explanation for ghosts could be that they're humans that live with us but exist in a totally different realm or timeline, hence they're never fully here and we can't observe them properly with our senses. But maybe they can with theirs. I would take that explanation over them being evidence of the afterlife any day because it's just a lot less scary and I can see better at night that way. At number 4 is ancient light. Caltech cosmologist Ranga Ramchari found evidence of cosmic bruising, which he thinks is evidence of a parallel universe. Cosmic bruising basically means one universe bumping against another universe. In his study published in the Astrophysical Journal, he said cosmic bruising may explain an anomaly in a cosmic microwave background produced using data from ESA's Planck Observatory. When he compared the map created to a map of the night sky, he found this unexplainable blob of bright light. The cosmic background shows bursts of ancient light displaying radiation signatures from just a few 100,000 years after the Big Bang. And I know that seems like a long time, but in the bigger picture, it's probably like a minute. Ancient light is the result of the recombinations of electrons and protons that initially teamed up to make hydrogen. And hydrogen only gives off a limited range of visible light, so all astronomers know which colors they should be and which colors they shouldn't be. And the blob he found on the map wasn't the color it should have been, and he posited that our universe may have just simply been a region within another eternally inflating superregion. That's nice. Filling at number 3 slot is quantum mechanics. Science teacher Eamon is back at it again, people. And I don't know how I'm going to make quantum mechanics easy to understand in 1 minute, but I'm going to try, so bear with me. And for the record, none of this is in dispute, so can't debate me in the comments, because even scientists aren't doing it, so haha. Now, so quantum particles exist at the subatomic level and are the smallest particles in existence. Well, from what we've discovered so far. These particles exist in a superposition state, which means they either exist in 2 places at once, or they're spinning in 2 different directions simultaneously. That's their standby state. Are we understanding so far? Are we all getting this? I feel like that was the simple part. I cannot make this simpler, believe me, I tried. So this is the hard part. When these particles are not being observed in their standby state, they're taking on every possible state, position, configuration that they can. And when they're observed, the state or configuration that they're in becomes adopted. And so that's set in stone now. But at the same time, it spawns like billions of other alternate timelines in the process. Basically, these particles can be in so many configurations and all of them represent an alternate version of reality, but we literally can't even begin to count how many possible combinations of factors and outcomes there are, but it's science. Like, even physicists haven't even fully understood it. How am I meant to make you guys understand it on YouTube? But I think that was pretty easy to understand, and it also makes your mind wander to every possible thing that can happen, or could happen, or is happening. Dun, dun, dun. Now at number 2 is the black hole theory. So black holes are apparently useful for something other than stretching us into non-existence. Now the idea of black holes being gateways to parallel universes has been part of sci-fi plots for like 5 ever. But Stephen Hawking himself believes in parallel universes, and he calculated that black holes aren't just giant sinkholes where nothing ever survives. In his final calculations, he discovered that mathematically black holes must end. Eventually they have to, they just do. Based on his calculations, he realized black holes actually start to leak information and eventually explode, and that explosion would release previously trapped particles in any form. Emphasis on any if you didn't get that the first time. Being ejected by explosion wouldn't just throw someone back to where they came from, it would make them reappear somewhere else, most likely an alternate universe. And who knows what form they'll even reappear in. Finally, at number 1 is the Professor. Now this story took place in the early 1970s on the campus of the University of the Andes in Venezuela. A prominent unnamed professor has been missing for the last 40-50 years, and how he disappeared has led people to believe he slipped into a parallel world. One afternoon, many students saw him walking across the parking lot of one of the buildings. He even stopped to chat with a student as he went to his car. He got to his car, he saw some students wave at him, and he waved back. And when he finally got into the car and closed the door, he straight up disappeared. And I'm not talking disappeared as in he drove away and was never seen again. No, the car was never driven, it was just stood there, and he sat in the car and disappeared into thin air. After police conducted interviews with witnesses, it was concluded no one saw him get out of the car either. The story was so big it was even covered by El Tiempo, one of the largest Venezuelan newspapers. Like, how did he just disappear like that? Mind blown. In our number 10 spot, we have unknown objects.
Over the years, archaeologists have discovered items while on expeditions that they truly can't explain. Objects that cannot be identified as an object of this world, or an object that is so old and doesn't fit with our idea as to what existed during that time. A good example of this is a hammer that was found in London in the 1930s. And this hammer is said to be over 500 million years old when humans weren't known to exist. There is also the Antikythera object that is a stone-like computer that was found near a Greek island. A stone computer? What? These items are from civilizations and times where there is no other data and proof that they existed. And so some have, of course, concluded that perhaps they are objects left by time travelers or dimension travelers. Or perhaps alien species. I think dimension travelers. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. In our number 9 spot, we have the case of Lorena Garcia. This is a story that was covered in the news around the world because of how different it was and how it may possibly prove the existence of alternate realities. Allegedly, a young woman by the name of Lorena Garcia woke up one morning to find that nothing was familiar to her. Her home, her friends, job, everything was completely different, as if she was brand new to this planet. Many think that the reason everything was so far off is because she slipped into another dimension. No explanation made more sense, as she was still her and looked like her, and yet everything, her whole world, was completely different. People have speculated that she suffered from memory loss. However, all signs pointed to her being in perfect health. Not to mention nothing traumatic had occurred that would make anyone believe that theory. This sounds actually so similar to a popular book called 1,000 Pieces of You. I bet the author based the story off of this story. If you like the idea of alternative realities, then I would very much recommend that book. In our number 8 spot, we have deja vu. This is a phenomenon that is widely talked about, as it is seemingly a phenomenon that almost everyone experiences. The phenomena that is deja vu is essentially a weird sensation that you have experienced a situation once before. You have a feeling kind of like, yeah, this happened before, or this feels familiar. People try to explain it off as if it is something familiar that you are thinking is similar, or it is some kind of troubleshooting in the brain. There are also other versions of deja vu, such as deja vu, a feeling that you know what's going to happen next, or alter vu, which is the act of remembering your history differently. Similar to the case of Lorena Garcia, where the person realizes that the world around them is unfamiliar, and they can recognize their history and recognize the history forming in front of their eyes as well. Pretty trippy. What if psychic predictions are just knowings that we have from other realities, and maybe when they don't happen and we feel sure that they were supposed to happen, then maybe that fate wasn't meant for this reality, but it is meant for another reality. Ooh, interesting. In our number 7 spot, we have the Berenstein Bears phenomena. If you haven't heard of this sign of an alternative reality, then perhaps you did not grow up in the 90s, when literally everyone I speak to that grew up in this time seems to remember this book being called the Berenstein Bears, not the Berenstain Bears, as it is seemingly published as today. This has been a popular thread on internet chat rooms for many years now, and so widely talked about. Most people believe it to be a sign that we possibly jumped into another reality in the millennium, or perhaps in 2012, or just in another time, because there are just too many people that are confused about the name change. If we didn't jump into another reality, then I'm convinced some aliens have changed it somehow to mess with all of us. One of the two theories feels about right. In our number 6 spot, we have the many worlds theory. There is a physicist by the name of Hugh Everett who, back in 1957, came up with a theory of multiple realities in quantum mechanics, and he suggested that all possible alternate histories and futures are real, but are within their own worlds. This theory basically states that any possible occurrence that could have happened in reality would be a world of its own. Whoa. It's a theory that is one of the more popular ones in the physics and philosophy world, being added to and expanded upon by other physicists such as Bryce Sillingman DeWitt. In our number 5 spot, we have dreams. Out of all the explained phenomena in the world, we've even placed a person on the moon, for Christ's sakes. We have not been able to solve the mystery of our dreams. Researchers are nowhere close to understanding exactly how the mind works, and dreams are an element that are still quite a mystery. Nobody quite knows if dreams are a result of the brain as it rests. The brain perhaps sorts through thoughts, memories, and anxieties, or do we perhaps jump into other worlds and realities in our dreams? Some think both. There's also the phenomenon of astro travel that many have proven to have done in dreams, and were able to give accurate information when they've woken up about what happened while they were dreaming. So yet another phenomenon about dreams we can't explain. But my money is on jumping into alternative realities. I've had too many weird dreams in my life that make me think, yeah, that's probably true. In our number 4 spot, we have Torrid. Okay, this story is kind of wild. Apparently, in the year 1954, there was a man coming into Tokyo Airport in Japan with a passport from a country that didn't exist. The customs officials grilled the man on why he had a fake passport and fake custom papers, and he insisted that his passport and papers were real. He apparently had all kinds of bank statements and documents from a country in Europe called Torrid. Apparently, this country has thousands of years of history as well. The man was held in a hotel room for several hours while the government analyzed his papers, only to go into the hotel room and find him to be vanished. Yeah, that's enough proof for me. Clearly, he was a person from another reality where Torrid is a country. Cool. What a wild story. I'm surprised that a movie hasn't been made about this yet. In our number 3 spot, we have ghosts. There are some scientific theories out there that possibly tie ghosts to people from alternative realities. I know we usually think of ghosts and think that they're our deceased loved ones who have moved on to wherever, another place. But some scientists have theorized that perhaps ghosts are actually some kind of bleed through from alternative realities, a sort of misfiring of electrons that have landed on a possible wrong plane of existence. Or perhaps it really is just our deceased loved ones in an alternative reality, and that's where we move on to when we pass away. Who knows, but interesting to think about. In our number 2 spot, we have superposition. Okay, so scientific research has led us to have a good understanding of how the universe works, as we have been able to observe the behavior of electrons and protons, which make up atoms, and in case you don't know, but atoms make up humans and every object on this planet. Something that we have learned through observing protons and electrons is that they can be in multiple places or in multiple states of existence all simultaneously. This has been called superposition. This means that people and things could also possibly exist in multiple states of reality, too, thus proving to me that alternative realities exist. I wonder if there's a reality that I'm a princess. That just feels right. In our number 1 spot today, we have the Large Hadron Collider. There is a Large Hadron Collider that has been subjected to many urban legends over the years. This Hadron Collider is the world's largest and highest particle collider that lies 27 kilometers deep below the surface between the France and Switzerland border. It was originally created by CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research, between 1998 and 2008 as a collab between 10,000 scientists and hundreds of labs and universities from over 100 different countries. Anyways, some say that the purpose of this was to possibly create a black hole in reality, but of course, this is just hearsay and a theory. Regardless of what they are actually doing down there, they did stumble across some crazy evidence that may further prove the existence of alternate realities. By throwing a bunch of particles around at crazy speeds, these scientists were able to measure how long particles disappeared for, and it has been assumed that they traveled to new dimensions or planes of existence. Apparently, one of the scientists at CERN by the name of Aurelian Barreau has been quoted as saying, "The multiverse is no longer a model. It is a consequence of our models." Fascinating is all I've got to say. I'm obsessed with Interstellar, and apparently that movie did a very good representation as to describing what is believed to be the fifth dimension and what could be assumed as an alternate reality. God, my little third dimension brain is feeling mind blown thinking about all this. I think I'm gonna go take a nap now.
The only way we're going to retrieve all of the data is to shoot the balloon down as soon as possible. So bring down that balloon, download that data, and get ready to move. The balloon has landed. Defend that data.
Imagine going to bed in a normal, quiet town and waking up the next morning to find a massive crater in the middle of it, with no explosion, no warning at all. A perfectly formed hole where solid ground used to be. Today we're looking at real documented craters that appeared suddenly with no clear cause. Every one of these happened in the real world and left experts scratching their heads. So let's get into it. In the summer of 2014, helicopter crews flying over the Yamal Peninsula in northern Siberia spotted something that had never been there before. A massive circular crater about 260 feet wide and over 150 feet deep. It looked like a perfect hole punched straight down into the frozen earth. Everyone was stunned. Reindeer herders said the ground had been flat and solid just days earlier. There were no reports of earthquakes, no aircraft activity, no meteor sightings, no explosion sounds. It was just this giant crater in the middle of the tundra. Scientists rushed in and found something very strange. The surrounding soil showed signs of being pushed outward from below rather than blasted inward from above. There was no impact debris, no fragments of rock scattered around, no burn marks. What they eventually discovered was a buildup of pressurized methane gas trapped beneath the permafrost. As the Arctic warmed, the frozen ground weakened. Gas pressure increased until the surface failed catastrophically. Since then, more than a dozen similar craters have been discovered in the area. Many of them formed between satellite passes, which means they appeared suddenly and without warning. In 2013, residents in Sefner, Florida woke up to chaos. A massive hole had opened beneath a single-family home during the night. One bedroom was completely gone. The man sleeping inside vanished instantly. There was no earthquake, no storm, no construction activity. It was solid ground turning into a crater in seconds. When investigators examined the site, they found something disturbing. A sinkhole had opened directly into a vast underground cavern formed by limestone erosion. The collapse happened so quickly, the house had no time to shift or crack. It just dropped. What makes this case especially unsettling is that the ground-penetrating radar surveys done years earlier showed that there was no danger. The collapse happened without detectable warning signals. Florida has thousands of underground cavities formed by water-dissolving limestone. Most collapse slowly. This one clearly didn't. It failed catastrophically in the middle of the night. Even today, engineers admit that predicting these sudden collapses is extremely difficult. In some areas, the ground can appear stable for decades and then disappear in seconds. New fear unlocked. In 2010, residents of Guatemala City woke up to find a perfectly circular hole in the middle of an urban neighborhood. The crater was nearly 60 feet wide and plunged over 300 feet straight down. It looked unnatural, almost drilled. Cars and buildings nearby were untouched. One three-story building collapsed directly into the hole, though. Initial rumors spread fast. Meteor impact, secret tunneling, military testing. None of it actually matched the evidence, though. Geologists eventually determined the cause was a catastrophic failure of underground volcanic pumic layers, combined with decades of leaking sewage pipes. Water erosion hollowed out the ground until it collapsed vertically. City officials later claimed they had no way to detect the collapse in advance. The infrastructure had failed silently underground for years. 2016, villagers of Guangxi Province, China, woke up to find a massive crater in the middle of farmland, over 160 feet wide, more than 200 feet deep. It formed overnight without noise loud enough to wake nearby residents. There were no storms, there's no mining activity. This area sits atop karst terrain where limestone dissolves easily. But what confused experts was the speed. Entire fields advanced between dusk and dawn. When geologists examined the site, they found underground rivers had carved massive caverns beneath the surface. The sudden collapse caused the ground to drop vertically. Several similar craters appeared in nearby villages within months. In some cases, houses were evacuated just hours before collapse. Chinese authorities later admitted that hundreds of similar underground cavities exist beneath populated areas and that many are undetectable in standard surveys. Yikes. 2019, farmers near the town of Schmalkalden, Germany, discovered a crater roughly 30 feet wide and 20 feet deep in the middle of a field. It had appeared seemingly overnight. There was no impact debris or anything like that, no signs of military ordnance, no seismic activity recorded. Police at first treated it as a possible unexploded bomb from World War II. Germany still finds them on a regular basis, but ground analysis ruled that out completely. Geologists determined it was a sudden subsidence event caused by gypsum dissolution underground. Water had eaten away the rock until the surface collapsed. What made this case unusual was the complete lack of cracking or deformation around the crater. The ground just dropped in a clean circular shape. Experts stated that similar collapses could occur across large parts of Central Europe with no warning. In 2022, a massive crater appeared near a lithium mining operation in northern Chile, over 100 feet wide and rapidly expanding. Mining companies insisted there had been no blasting, there's no drilling, seismic sensors detected nothing. Crater formed near residential areas, prompting evacuations. Geologists concluded that underground water extraction had destabilized deep salt layers. The ground collapsed suddenly, creating a near-perfect sinkhole. What unsettled everyone was how fast it grew, too. Within days, the hole expanded by dozens of feet, despite no activity at the site. Officials admitted monitoring systems failed to detect the collapse before it happened. In 2017, motorists in Puebla, Mexico, reported a sudden collapse beside a rural highway. By morning, a massive hole had opened less than 10 feet from the road. There were no tremors or construction. There was no weather event that had caused it. The crater measured over 60 feet across and continued expanding for weeks. Investigators found underground aquifers had been overdrawn for agriculture. As water levels dropped, the soil lost structural support. What made this case alarming was that traffic cameras showed the road intact hours before the collapse. There was just no warning this was going to happen. Engineers stated the collapse happened rapidly during the night. It was 2012 when residents near Bayou Corn, Louisiana, noticed trees tilting and bubbling gas rising from a nearby swamp. Days later, a massive sinkhole opened, swallowing trees and expanding relentlessly. The cause was eventually traced to a failed underground salt dome cavern used for industrial storage. The cavern collapsed, causing the surface to cave in. The sinkhole grew to over 30 acres, forcing permanent evacuation of nearby homes. And what shocked experts was how long the collapse continued. The ground kept falling for years after this initial event. In central Turkey, farmers discovered dozens of circular sinkholes appearing across agricultural land. Some appeared overnight. Researchers linked the phenomenon to aggressive groundwater pumping combined with gypsum dissolution. Underground voids expanded until collapse occurred suddenly. What made this case unique was the number. Entire regions experienced simultaneous crater formation. Officials warned that many more would appear with little to no notice. In September 2007, residents of the village of Caracas in southern Peru heard a sudden roaring sound from the sky, followed by a violent shock that rattled windows. Minutes later, they discovered a crater nearly 45 feet wide and over 15 feet deep, carved into the ground beside a dry stream bed. At first, it looked like a textbook meteor impact, but when scientists arrived, they were immediately confused. There was no burn pattern. There was no melted rock. Even stranger, villagers reported nausea, headaches, and a strong sulfur-like smell after the event. Some people ended up being hospitalized, and that led to rumors of toxic materials or military debris. Initial tests confirmed that a stony meteorite had struck the ground, but under normal conditions, a meteor of that size should have fragmented in the atmosphere. It should not have formed a crater that deep, and it should not have left the surrounding ground largely undisturbed. Further analysis revealed the meteorite was unusually dense and struck at a steep angle into water-saturated sediment. Instead of exploding or dispersing energy outward, it transferred force straight down, and that explained the crater, but not everything. Seismic sensors detected almost nothing. There's no fireball visible across large distances, and the ejecta was minimal compared to typical impacts. Even today, Caracas is studied as a rare type of impact event where expected signatures were largely absent. Scientists admit that if it had occurred in an unpopulated area, it might have been classified as a mysterious crater rather than an impact at all. With all that said, I've been your host, James. I will catch you, yes, you specifically, in the next video. AI dictatorships, out of control deepfakes, mass animal extinction. These are the top 10 terrifying predictions for 2025. We pray don't come true. Imagine a world where a machine, not a human, makes all the most important decisions. Well, according to folks like Elon Musk and a whole swath of AI researchers, we might not be too far away from that becoming a reality. Musk has been warning for years about the dangers of unregulated AI, calling it one of the biggest threats to humanity. The fear is that as AI becomes more advanced, it could end up running entire countries, controlling military systems and making life or death decisions with little to no human oversight. Some researchers predict that AI could surpass human intelligence by 2025. Some say it already has, and that makes it hard, if not impossible, for us to control it. This would lead to something terrifying: AI dictatorships. Here, we'll have AI running governments, dictating laws, controlling entire societies. Imagine a machine that monitors your every move, decides what jobs you can do, what healthcare you can receive, or how you should live your life in general. I don't think anyone is saying this is going to come to fruition in 2025, but that it's on the verge of happening. With AI evolving at such a fast speed, there's a real fear that we're losing control of something that was originally, supposedly, meant to serve us. The animals of the planet may be in serious trouble, and some experts are predicting that we could be facing a mass extinction event by 2025. According to a number of scientists, species are disappearing at an alarming rate, faster than they ever have in human history. The World Wrestling Federation, the World Wildlife Fund, I'm still bitter that they changed that to WWE. Ugh. Anyway, they warn that we are in the 6th mass extinction, with more than 1 million species at risk of vanishing within the next couple decades. It's not just big animals dying out, but smaller creatures like insects too, and without them, the entire food chain just collapses. Deforestation, pollution, as we destroy habitats and pollute the water, species are either dying off or being forced to adapt at a pace they can't keep up with. The loss of pollinators like bees, for example, could have huge consequences for the planet. Imagine a world where deepfakes, hyper-realistic AI-generated videos, are used not to just make funny memes online, but to trick people into believing false news. It really doesn't take a genius to see how dangerous deepfaking can get, especially with how fast the technology is advancing. In the next few years, deepfake technology could be weaponized in ways that could create chaos on a massive scale. Deepfakes can already make it look like anyone is saying anything, and now there's a very real concern that this tech could be used to fake emergency broadcasts or health warnings even. What makes this terrifying is how easy it would be to panic the public, have people canceled that don't deserve to be. People could be attacked in the street for doing something they never actually did. Governments and tech companies are trying to develop tools to detect deepfakes, but the tech is just advancing so fast that we're just on a constant game of catch-up. Drones aren't just for taking pictures or delivering packages. By 2025, drone warfare could be a major part of global conflict. Military drones are already used for surveillance and airstrikes, but they're getting smarter and more deadly every year. What's really terrifying is the possibility of drones being used in autonomous combat, where, like I mentioned earlier, they could make life or death decisions on their own without any human influence. AI-powered drones operating in swarms, communicating with each other and coordinating attacks could change the way wars are fought. Even smaller groups or rogue states could get their hands on drone technology and use it to target military bases or even civilian populations. With each passing year, drones are getting closer and closer to being used on a more massive scale, leading to a kind of warfare that's faster, more unpredictable, and even harder to control, but most importantly, easier to carry out. I mean, killing is easy if you're doing it from the comfort of a chair far away from harm. Synthetic biology is becoming more of a reality every day as well. If you've never heard of George Church, he's a geneticist who's been working on this technology. His work focuses on genome editing, basically editing DNA to create either like new life forms or enhance the abilities of living things like you and me. It's really pushing the boundaries of what it means to be human. Scientists are already working on designer babies, editing genes to remove inherited diseases and enhancing things like strength, intelligence, or memory. Some predict that by 2025, there could be widespread genetic modification where human beings could literally choose the traits they want in their offspring or enhance their own bodies with biohacking techniques, at least within the next few years. Imagine people enhancing themselves with cybernetic limbs, enhanced vision, or AI-powered brain implants that could make us more than human, but also less human at the same time. It could be pretty cool, and there are definitely benefits to this type of thing, but it could also easily get out of hand. Will we still be human in the next few decades, or will it be something else entirely, and will we be ready to deal with it? How would you feel if every move you made was being watched? Whether you're walking down the streets, logging into your computer, or even chatting with your friends. Some say this is already happening. I mean, your phone is pretty much listening to you all the time. Surveillance technology is only going to get more advanced as 2025 progresses. Are we going to be stuck in a global surveillance hell world by the end of next year? I mean, maybe not, but we're getting closer all the time. And it's not just government agencies keeping an eye on things either. With advancements in facial recognition, AI monitoring, smart devices, it's becoming easier for corporations to track people wherever they go. Reality is that cameras are already everywhere, and surveillance technology is getting more advanced by the day. Smart cities could be a huge part of this, where everything from traffic lights to street signs are connected to this system that can track every citizen's movement, gaining info on your habits, your preferences, maybe even your mood one day. We could see predictive surveillance as well, where AI analyzes data to anticipate what people might do before they even do it. Check out the anime Psycho-Pass if you're at all interested in that idea. The idea of the world's economy crashing might sound extreme, but by 2025, it could be closer to reality than we think. Right now, the global financial system is already under a lot of pressure. Countries are dealing with huge debt, rising costs, inflation. A lot of them are still trying to bounce back from economic crises like the one in 2020. The possibility of a worldwide economic collapse is becoming more likely. Some economists are saying that in the next few years, the way the world handles money could just totally break down. If countries can't get their finances under control, could see hyperinflation where prices skyrocket and money loses its value. This could lead to massive job losses and millions of people being unable to afford even the basics, and this would set up a chain reaction, unrest, chaos for people all over the world. In 2025, we could see cyber terrorism becoming even more prevalent than it already is. Hackers, either working on their own or employed by their own country, could launch attacks on power grids, water systems, healthcare systems, throwing entire cities into chaos. What's scarier is that these cyber attacks could be almost impossible to trace. A single cyber attack could seriously mess things up for a whole country. It could shut down communication systems, crash the economy, but it's not just governments that are in danger. Businesses, hospitals, even regular people like you and me could be targeted. Imagine you wake up to find your bank account logged and your devices are all hacked. Not that that doesn't already happen now, but with the rise of AI and machine learning, cyber criminals are getting better at these attacks every day. They can move faster, think smarter, and make it harder for us to stop them. Within the next few years, climate change could force millions of people to leave their homes in search of safer ground. Rising sea levels, extreme natural disasters, failed crops, it'll all make some areas basically unlivable, creating what many experts are calling the first wave of climate refugees. These are people who have no choice but to leave their homes because the land they live on just isn't sustainable anymore. The most affected areas will likely be low-lying coastal regions and areas experiencing extreme droughts or flooding. People will migrate in search of water, food, basic resources, and just so that they can live in a place where they are constantly having to worry about being swept away in a monster tsunami. As more people are displaced, we could see global migration reach levels never seen before. This could cause political chaos, with governments struggling to take care of their own population, but also dealing with the needs of refugees. And that kind of leads into the next point, water. We all need it, but what if there's not enough to go around? According to a United Nations report, by 2025, almost 2/3 of the world's population could face severe water shortages. That means billions of people could be without access to clean drinking water. It's not just a third world problem. Countries like India, China, even the US could be facing this. Why is this happening? Well, climate change is making water sources less predictable. Pollution is contaminating rivers and lakes. On top of that, the world's growing population and overconsumption are putting a huge pressure on water supplies. In some regions, like the Middle East and parts of Africa, people already live in what's known as water scarcity, meaning they don't have enough water to meet their daily needs. As fresh water becomes more scarce, countries could start fighting over it, just like how we fight over oil. Tensions over water rights are already on the rise, and some are warning that if something isn't done soon, we could see see more water wars, and that's a global crisis we don't want to face. All right, next up we have Edgar Cayce, often referred to as the Sleeping Prophet. He was an American psychic who did most of his work in the early to mid 1900s. He was known for entering into this deep, trance-like state while giving readings on a wide range of topics like health, spirituality, Atlantis for some reason came up a lot, and of course future events. Now, he didn't explicitly discuss time travel, but he did describe his consciousness leaving his body, combining this with future prophecies, and that's basically traveling in time. Casey's predictions often revolved around a concept he referred to as the Earth changes. According to his readings, these changes were geological and environmental shifts that would happen in the future, leading to problems. Some of his predictions included the shifting of the Earth's axis, which would result in changes in climate and sea levels. He also spoke of societal and political catastrophe, saying the only way to avoid it was through spiritual awakening and moral development as a society who helped mitigate the severity of these events. Let's throw a witch into the mix, shall we? Mother Shipton. One tale goes that her mother, Agatha, was a witch herself and summoned the devil before her to bring her a child. And that child was Ursula Southill, aka Mother Shipton, who instead of crying like most babies when she was born, made an unsettling cackling sound because she was a half and half. Dad was a devil, mom was a witch. Bit of a nasty shock for everyone when they found out. She lived in the 16th century, and her predictions, which were often in the form of rhymes, have been studied and analyzed for centuries. Her verses are filled with vivid imagery and poetic language. She prophesied technological advancements, political changes, and horrible natural disasters. She's said to have predicted the invention of cars, submarines, and even airplanes. But she also made vague predictions about the end times. The original date was 1821, which obviously didn't come true, unless we're all just living in some Matrix-style computer simulation or something. So the end of the world date keeps being reassessed and bumped forward. Don't worry though, guys. Things will all come crashing down eventually. Next up, we have Harold Camping, a former Christian radio evangelist. This guy used his mind to travel to the future so often, they just kept fumbling the dates of his doomsday predictions and had to keep reassessing and, again, bumping them up. Unfortunately, though, everything just kept on being okay. First, he said the world was going to end in early September of 94. It didn't, but he was adamant that 94 was going to be the year and reassessed and realized, oh wait, it's actually end of September. Sorry, 29th. Not the 6th. Then he bumped it up to October and so on. But you know what? I can't imagine being clairvoyant is very easy on the brain. Must be a bit confusing and overwhelming to the senses. Anyway, then he said Christ was going to return on May 21st of 2011, which was a good thing for him and his followers, but bad for everyone else, of course, as the pitiful non-believers were going to be suffering an eternal torment. It was a very exciting time, but sadly, May 21st passed on without any horrific suffering on a mass scale anyway. I guess somebody's suffering every day. So Harold Camping, being the incredible clairvoyant wizard that he was, said, well, a spiritual judgment, that happened on May 21st. We've all been assessed, getting everyone's paperwork together, but get excited, folks. October, that's when the physical rapture is gonna happen. And it didn't. And apparently Camping was clairvoyant enough to know it too, because he quit working on the radio station just a few days before this apparent biblical apocalypse was set to take place. If there's two things that seem to go together like chocolate and peanut butter, it's time travel and space travel. And that's exactly why I have Heaven's Gate cult leader Marshall Applewhite on the list. This guy firmly believed the world was coming to an end and that the only way to survive was to ascend to a higher plane of existence by shedding the physical form and reaching the very creatively titled next level, where he and his followers would live a happy, transcendent existence in space. Most of you know how this went. Applewhite and the rest of the Heaven's Gate cult donned their uniforms, complete with armbands reading Heaven's Gate Away Team, and consumed heavy amounts of a certain substance, washing it down with vodka, before suffocating themselves with plastic bags over their head. I'm not really sure why they needed the uniforms, seeing as the whole point was they were shedding their physical forms, but who am I, right? Rudolf Steiner, this guy was the founder of a spiritual movement called anthroposophy. His teachings delved into the nature of existence, human consciousness, and the spiritual world in general. His philosophy often touched on the idea of spiritual evolution and the cyclical nature of existence. He often discussed reincarnation in his work, meaning that, according to him, people go through multiple lifetimes to learn and evolve spiritually. So it may not be time travel in a conventional sense, but it does imply a journey through time on a more spiritual level. He also spoke about the idea that humanity is on a path of development, and our collective actions and choices play a big role in shaping the future, and a major consequence of humanity not developing spiritually, again, according to him, meant that a very dark future was ahead. Next on the list is David Mead. This guy is a conspiracy theorist and author who's made a number of predictions about an impending apocalypse, mostly linking it to a planet called Nibiru, or Planet X. Mead, who identifies as a Christian numerologist, claimed to have uncovered hidden codes within the Bible, using them to predict specific celestial events. His predictions have focused on the alignment of celestial bodies and certain numerical calculations that point to a catastrophic collision between Earth and Planet X. I remember hearing a lot about this doomsday prediction leading up to 2012. That was a big year for end of the world predictions. Once again, didn't pan out though. Next up, we have David Icke. David Icke is a British conspiracy theorist known for promoting some pretty unconventional ideas. One of his most notorious claims involves the existence of shape-shifting reptilian humanoid aliens who, according to him, secretly control the world. You've heard of this stuff before, especially if you watch this channel. Icke suggests that many prominent figures, world leaders, and celebrities for the most part, are actually reptilians in disguise. The idea that powerful figures are actually reptilian aliens manipulating humanity has become a pretty well-known conspiracy theory at this point, and some people really believe it, wholeheartedly. Icke has also made plenty of predictions about the end of the world, and as well as other, global conspiracies. He's talked about how the global elite, working in collaboration with these supposed reptilian beings, are orchestrating events to control and manipulate the world, and of course, they don't have our best intentions in mind. I guess his publisher might have been one of these reptilians, because at a certain point, apparently he was just like, no more of this. I can't publish any of these books anymore. So now he just self-publishes. He's got like tons of books about this stuff. It's nuts. Finally, though, we have Baba Vanga. If you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you've probably heard of this lady before. She's made all kinds of horrific predictions about the future, some of which were pretty eerily accurate. For those of you who aren't aware, though, Baba Vanga was a Bulgarian mystic and clairvoyant born in 1911 and died in 1996. She became famous for her apparent ability to make predictions about the future, and a good number of these predictions were pretty bad. Her predictions were wide-ranging, covering global events, natural disasters. One of her biggest apocalyptic predictions was that the world would end in the 51st century, but she didn't really give a lot of explicit detail about how that would occur, so good luck to trying to avoid it. Similar to Nostradamus, her prophecies were usually a bit on the cryptic side, open to interpretation.
First up is the 2030 Traveler. A time traveler known only as Noah claims to be from the year 2030. Now, this story I'm telling you is from 2017, so just keep that in mind. He turned up on the radio show Kyle and Jackie O and told them that he traveled multiple times in the past but was stuck in the present day. I usually went from like early 1999 to like 2018 around here, but when I got stuck, I was in the year 2017, he explained. So, how does he do it? I have many body implications and things all over myself, and I step in this giant dome and these things fire up, and basically a large electronic weight basically pushes you through time. It feels like you got electrocuted, he said. Now, one of the most shocking things was that he claims that us humans will be able to communicate with aliens. He said, we've confirmed the existence of aliens, but they're not incredibly intelligent. Right now, the government has communication with them, but we don't know it. In the future, we actually are in contact with aliens that are just as smart as humans, although we have many more advancements over them, he said. Now, of course, his claims have attracted skepticism, and in response, he agreed to take a lie detector test on camera. He listed events he said will happen in the next 12 years, and then the interviewer asked if he was telling the truth, and the machine records that he is. I mean, I guess this
sky is legit. Up next is the chain of events. TikTok user Eno Alarkic, who is a time traveler from 2671, has gained thousands of followers on the app by posting warnings about future events. In one video, Eno wrote, "Attention, I am a time traveler from the year 2671, and I'm here to warn you about these 5 dates to come. November 30th, 2022, the James Webb Telescope discovers a planet that is a mirrored version of Earth. January 1st, 2023, a plane flying over the Bermuda Triangle goes missing. March 3rd, 2023, a message is received all around the world that seems to have come from the ocean. May 15th, 2023, a 750 mega tsunami hits the California coast, mainly San Francisco. And June 18th, 2023, 7 people mysteriously fall from the sky, but there was nothing flying in that area." Now, how believable is this? Well, I don't really think any of this happened, but just the thoughts of these events even happening is chilling. Moving on to the alien invasion. On March 23rd, 2023, a time traveler who warned of an alien invasion claims that said extraterrestrials had arrived on Earth and abducted 8,000 Earthlings. The champion has arrived to bring 8,000 people to another planet, they said. The so-called time traveler warned of a very hostile alien species known as the Distance that are coming to take back the Earth. It's a fight we will not win. They claim that the champions were looking for the best engineers, scientists, doctors, and leaders, and these 8,000 people are what keep the human species alive from inside and outside threats. Thankfully, though, they add, "I want you all to know that you are safe, and I'm trying to warn you of what's to come." Now, last year we were having all those weird UFO sightings. Could those have been related to this incident they're talking about? I don't know, maybe. Now we have the dangers of technology. A time traveler claims to have come back from the future to warn us all of an impending apocalypse, humans versus technology. They said there was one huge computer controlling everything, which is not controlled by a person, but makes all demands and decisions itself. Apparently, the computer had the power to destroy the entire planet at once. So did this person really just confirm that we live in a simulation? I think so. Now, speaking to the camera, the time traveler who had his voice and identity changed to protect himself said, "I was not born here. I was born in 3258 on December 1st in the European Empire." Now, the time traveler explained that he was drafted into the army at 18 and wore a uniform made of gold and saw everything that happened in 3260. He said there were not only robots, they were very clever and can take the decisions communicated with each other. He said the war began on September 21st, 33,000 when he was 42, and that there has never been such a war on the planet. It was fateful and tragic for all people all over the world. Now, I'm not gonna lie, guys, I feel like this is plausible and makes me scared, but I won't be alive in 33,000, so I don't really have to worry. Now, let's talk about the alien war. A time traveler from the year 2858 has claimed the world will end in 2038 during a war with an alien species that has apparently already invaded Earth. A mysterious social media user who claims to be a time traveler from the year 2858 has claimed to know how the world is going to end. The user claims that aliens have come to Earth to take over the planet, but the war apparently won't start until 2024. Now, guys, let me remind you that we are in 2024 right now. They said the first war will begin in early 2024 and will end in 2038, with the Earth being destroyed. Capturing the clip, they added, "Another species of aliens save us, but not the planet." The first being that everyone would dream of an alien invasion by a species called the Zells on February 28th, before the actual invasion, which was supposedly meant to take place on March 2nd. Now, people took to the comments to debate whether the alleged warnings could come true or not. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Catastrophic events are next. A time traveler from the year 3036 has left us some scary messages about the future. In a series of videos posted on his channel, the mysterious traveler claims the world's population in 3036 will reach record levels, with domestic animals such as cats and dogs considered exotic. Now, he also warned of something called the Big Blackout. The Big Blackout, if I'm not mistaken, happens in December 2052. Basically, everything goes dark for an upward of 5 years. The internet, the power, it all gets disconnected. on account of what's called the terrors, but many speculate otherwise. Anyway, 5 years, it's turmoil, riots, you name it, it's pretty much the worst of times. It takes them upwards to 20 years to get the power back online, and even then it's absolute chaos. Now he also added, "You're as free as you're ever gonna get right now," he said, staring directly back into the camera. "These are considered the last days of freedom. Your kids won't even see it, so suck it up, because as simple-minded as your time period is, you've got it pretty good, you just don't know it." Yeah, that is scary. I do not like that. Then we have the end of humanity. A TikToker that goes by Javier claims to be a time traveler. Javier's first video, posted in February 2021, depicts scenes throughout the city of Valencia, Spain, that look relatively normal, except for one fact: the city appears to be completely void of people. In the video, which has been viewed over 7 million times, he claims to be a time traveler from the year 2027. He says that by then, humanity will have gone extinct. A translation of the text within the video describes the eerie scene. Nobody in shopping malls, nobody on the streets. In a video posted soon after, he adds, "I keep trying to find human life. I'm starting to lose hope." Now, what happens to humans, he doesn't say, but 2027 isn't too far away, and we have to prevent whatever he claims will happen. On to the time travel program. A disguised woman who has introduced herself as Mia claims to have been recruited into a secret U.S. time travel program before she finished high school. The alleged time traveler said she was offered good money to travel nearly 600 years into the future, where the world is completely different to how we know it today. Allegedly, the world faces the irreparable consequences of climate change, the rise of artificial intelligence, and aliens settling on Earth. Now this seems realistic. Now, by the year 2600, the concept of independent nations will cease to exist, and humans will be ruled over by a world government run by AI. At the same time, humans will supposedly live in 11 megacities spread across the globe, where they will coexist with smart robots and aliens. The time traveler said, "I visited the year 2600, and it's very hard to explain to you what it was like because it's so different from the world we live in today. I saw robots, aliens, and human beings all living together in peace." And she added that, "I talked to people from this time, and they told me how the world had changed. They said that the red sky was caused by global warming, and that they all had microchips in them that made them smarter than their brains normally were. They said countries no longer existed, and that the whole world was governed by AI." Yeah, that sounds terrifying. Next up, we have Trevor the Time Traveler. Self-proclaimed Trevor the Time Traveler is from the year 2049, and he claims to know when World War III will break out. He claims to be visiting from over 2 decades into our future in search of his pal Roger, aka Kronos. But while on his so-called mission, he stopped to make videos warning people of what's to come, with claims about catastrophic events from aliens to natural disasters. However, among these warnings, Trevor claimed to know when World War III would break out and shared information to his followers. In a clip, Trevor wrote, "Here are 3 dates that something terrible is going to happen. Remember this date, February 21st, 2024, something very big will happen. May 29th, 2030, a third world war will start, lasting 7 years between the North and South. And 2037, the war ends, and the second baby boom happens, drawing the population too high." And last on our list is that the U.S. is destroyed. A TikTok time traveler posted a video saying, "I'm a real time traveler from the year 2236, and I've come to a date and time to warn you about upcoming events in the next few years," they wrote. They said in 2022, scientists discover a way to bring back the megalodon shark through using its DNA, and they create a real megalodon in 2023, and surprisingly, nothing goes wrong. In 2025, scientists discover signs of life on 2 different planets, and they're proven to be more advanced than humans, they predicted. A meteor will come down to Earth in 2034 and will wipe out half of America, they said, and the alleged time traveler suggests that 50% of the U.S. would be destroyed in just 12 years. The self-confessed Time Lord made another forecast for the upcoming decade, as they predicted the Maui dolphin will become extinct. Now, this isn't all. The TikToker also claimed that Disney will buy another large film studio, and one of the largest tornadoes will hit North America, causing many casualties. Now, while we don't know if the Meg is back yet, I think this is believable. We'll also just have to wait until 2025 to see if they're right. First up, we have Baba Vanga's prediction of Oumuamua. Oumuamua, an asteroid being sent to Earth by forces that are beyond our world. Baba Vanga made the prediction before her death on August 11th of 1996, which is insane considering the fact that Oumuamua wasn't discovered until October 19th of 2017. Oumuamua is the first interstellar object to be detected passing through our solar system. Interstellar meaning that it originated in a solar system other than our own. It is debated whether or not the object is an asteroid or a meteor, but what is clear to scientists is that this foreign object is huge, 400 meters long, and getting closer to Earth each and every day. Baba Vanga predicts that one day the object will collide with Earth, but not only that, she believes that it was sent by aliens to assess human cells on Earth, which is quite fitting when you take into consideration the English translation of Oumuamua, which means a messenger from afar arriving first. Could this asteroid possibly be the foreshadowing of alien life arriving on our planet? Let me know what you think down below. Next up, we have Baba Vanga's prediction of a lot of major earthquakes happening in 2024, with some taking place in places they generally wouldn't occur. Sound familiar? Just 4 days ago, on Friday, April 5th, New York was hit by a massive earthquake that had a magnitude of 4.8 and caused the Statue of Liberty to shake profusely. It lasted about 30 seconds, and local resident Charita Walcock described the feeling as being like in the center of a drum circle. The last time New York was hit by a large earthquake was in 2011 with a much higher magnitude, albeit of 5.8. What's really strange though is that generally earthquakes occur where two tectonic plates meet, so how the hell did one occur smack dab in the middle of a tectonic plate in New York? I'm not a scientist, so I really have no clue, but what I do know is that Baba Vanga's prediction is looking a lot scarier when you take that fact into perspective. Not only that, but this year alone, just 3 months and a few days in, we've already seen 143 6.0 to 6.9 magnitude earthquakes, 1,580 5.0 to 5.9, and 15,817 4.0 to 4.9 earthquakes. And the Earth is cracking, so not overly promising for the future, if you ask me. Next up, we have Baba Vanga's prediction of Earth's orbit changing, which will lead us to an increase in global climate change and extreme glacial defrosting. This is both new and not new. Why? Well, because we have known for a long time that over time, the Earth's orbit does slowly change due to gravitational pulls in the atmosphere that cause the orbit to become either more circular or elliptical, which is basically just a fancy word for oval because the word ovular was already taken. Anyways, the existence of changes within Earth's orbit was discovered in 1989 by scientific expert Jacques Lascar after Baba Vanga had made her initial prediction. Fast forward to 2024, while the Earth's orbit has barely changed, it has changed, and we are experiencing glacial defrosting at a rate that has never been observed before, which is pretty nerve-wracking, especially when you consider this next point. Baba Vanga predicted the discovery of a frozen virus in Siberia in 2022 that would eventually lead to another global pandemic. In 2022, a group of French scientists discovered, studied, and revived an ancient virus known as the zombie virus that they found buried in a frozen lake in Russia. The virus was discovered as a result of, guessed it, melting ice in the Antarctic region. And after tens of thousands of years of the ancient virus lying dormant, scientists thought it would be a good idea to revive it. Really? Lucky for us, this particular virus only attacks single-celled organisms, but who's to say the next one they find and decide to carelessly reanimate won't lead to the destruction of life as we know it? Say it with me, we do not reanimate things that could kill us. We don't. Well, according to Baba Vanga, did predict that sometime in 2024, Putin's reign over Russia would end after meeting his death at the hands of someone close to him, perhaps someone working on one of his political or military teams. According to Vladimir Putin himself, at this point in time, he has already survived 6 separate assassination attempts on his life since 2002. While that may very well be the case, according to Baba Vanga, it is unlikely that he will survive many more. Moving a bit further into the future, we have the prediction prediction that 23 years after Europe becomes Islamic in 2043, the United States of America will reach a major milestone in weapons technology. In 2066, the US will create a weapon called the Environmental Destructor that will freeze everything in its path. Whether or not this means that the United States will have created technology that allows them to act like Frozone from The Incredibles, literally causing everything in its path to turn to ice, or if the weapon simply just destroys areas, causing their ability to support life to become frozen in time, remains to be seen. Personally, I don't like the sound of either, and again, like most predictions on this list, I really hope she got this one wrong. But this one, however, I really hope she got right, as Baba Vanga has predicted that world hunger will be over by the year 2025. So that's coming up real soon. How? I have no clue whatsoever. But in an incredibly unstable world with an incredibly unstable future, it's nice to hear this kind of thing coming out of the mouth of a woman who has, in the past, predicted the future with over 80% accuracy. While world